So happy Saturday. This looks like it's going to be a video we're going to be discussing about Section 8 secrets exposed. I've seen a lot of interesting videos in relation to that. A few ladies, a few guys are making videos about secrets. There are definitely some things out there that you could benefit from learning, but I don't know if it's a secret, So before we get started, I'm going to do a few introductions. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I've worked in the industry about 20 years. In addition to that, kind of give you all a breakdown of what I do and how I do it. So some of my experience includes dealing with hundreds of housing authorities around the country, continuum of care, dealing with their operations manuals, applications, policies, procedures, assessment tools, HIMS manuals, algorithmic data manuals, and every piece of HUD and housing legislation written in the last 20 years. Stack all that up together, it's probably a good read, around 1 million pages. So beyond that, we're facing the summer crowd, and this is going to get intense. It's already a madhouse. I've been talking about that, warning people like I do every year as we approach summer. It is an absolute slaughterhouse out there. Even getting a voucher you may not find a place. Some states are ridiculous compared to others. So, by the way, guys, this is a live video as of 4/30/2022. It will no longer be a live video after around 7 p.m. On the date that I've given. It'll just be pre-recorded. So you can chat with me in the live chat if you're on the phone, TV, tablet, whatever device you have, and ask questions. Because the primary goal of the video is for me to talk a little bit about secrets and assistance. But I think the bigger factor is to allow you guys to ask questions and answer those questions about things you don't know. We've all experienced situations with calling a local housing authority. They likely won't even answer the phone. And when they do, they only have a few minutes to talk with you. The other great free options out there are calling the HUD specialists. They're happy to answer a question or two and then hang up. And then you have the fantastic 211 and 311 information line where you have somebody typing on the keyboard and they're going to connect you to a dead end number, and that's usually the level of service you're usually going to get out of that. So that being said, let's get on with this. So you want to actually know some secrets about what I do and how that could potentially benefit you without me. So first thing is you need exactly what type of housing you're going to address. As many of you know, there are 3 different systems in place. One, you have HUD. It's the federal administer of funds. Those funds are sent to all 50 states. The state takes that allocation of money, and then it's then spread to all the housing authorities individually. And in principle, a lot of counties have one housing authority, and sometimes they have multiples, sometimes 3, 4, even 5. Now, once they receive that money, that is where you're going to apply. You're not applying at HUD, you're applying at the housing authority. The housing authority in principle offers 2 things to you. They can offer you a housing choice voucher as suggested, a voucher that gives you the choice to go to rent any type of property, home, duplex, apartment complex, and so on, anything that is on a foundation. There are a few states out there that might allow you to use your voucher to rent like a mobile home with wheels. Now, beyond that option, the housing authority also invests in properties itself. So it isn't just trying to issue you a voucher. It also can give you the option of project-based housing. I've talked about that extensively over probably 500 videos here on YouTube. So project-based housing is when the housing authority is not only giving you a voucher, but they are also going to be your landlord, which is usually a really bad idea for a lot of reasons, okay? And just to be clear, guys, I don't assist anybody with project-based housing. I won't deal with it. I refuse it. Anybody that books a consult with my company, because we already know how that's going to go. When you hear the words project-based housing, you already know you're fixing to have a really bad year, all right? Now, to be clear, sometimes project-based housing for 55 plus or 62 plus can be good. It can also, project-based housing could be good in some of the smaller states where there's not an intense amount of things going on in that particular state. So that's option number 1, project-based housing or a housing choice voucher, where you have the choice to rent from any private landlord on the market as long as the home doesn't have wheels. Secondary step that you could take is when you have a private landlords. So you remember when I was talking about project-based housing, when the housing authority owns the building? Well, when a private owner owns the property, it becomes what we call tenant-based housing. Do not confuse tenant-based housing with project-based housing. Two different things, okay? So that when those landlords build a building or they buy a building, there are, say, 100 units. And in return for allocating a specific number of units or all of them, they may get tax credits for the next 40 years. And in return, they've got to continue to give a certain number of units over for people to apply that are low income. So what is subsidized housing, affordable housing, and all that's all the same thing, all very much the same thing. It means that the building is giving you a subsidy. A subsidy for you old school people means they are giving you a coupon. Okay, there's no voucher involved in this. It is like a coupon. It says that, hey, 30% of whatever you're bringing in from your job or your fixed incomes will go towards your rent. Thus, you get a discount at the building. There's no voucher involved. So tenant-based housing, affordable housing, low-income housing are all the same thing. The only reason they're called so many different things is because the people that work at news agencies can't get their shit together and figure out what to call it. I know what to call it. Tenant-based housing, okay? Now, in principle, most tenant-based housing, low-income housing, affordable housing, whatever name you'd like to give it, a lot of it's going to be 55 plus to 62 plus. So let me tell you a secret as to why more often it's more difficult for people under 55 to give it, something you didn't know. One of the reasons that it's difficult is because private landlords, as well as housing authorities, understand one thing. If the government, which is HUD, is a government agency, the government is going to give you a discount towards your rent, that means technically you've got one check. Now, if you are a senior, you're on Social Security disability, or survivor benefits, it means you are now receiving two checks. So when you have a tenant that receives both a subsidy and they also know that you're getting, $1,000 to $1,500 a month for your Social Security disability, or survivor benefits, it means that the risk level of you not paying rent is exceptionally low. Now you understand why they go after people older that receive not one subsidy, not only receive a subsidy, but also a check, because it makes you less of a gamble. So now you understand why a lot of times the younger folks, well, I don't get it. Why won't they take a gamble on my job? Because they don't know if you're going to keep working at Taco Bell, okay? Now, I'm not suggesting everybody here's working at the dollar store, but let's just be honest, okay? People think in those terms, especially those that are ignorant and unappraised. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to take a short breather here, and I'm going to address a few questions and hellos and from our live chat. And then this video is still live at this moment at 6:09 on 4/30/2022. Michelle Hyatt, hello, how are you? Ms. Bedford, hello, how are you? Peachy, good to see you. Are there differences between you, young and under 30, and on disability? Well, I think that in terms of age does play a factor in the potential type of voucher, how the voucher is funded. So let's go into a little bit of voucher education. And I've done that in a number of videos. Some of you may get tired of hearing it, but we'll go over it again. So when you deal with vouchers and you apply at the housing authority and they're considering you for a voucher is little more than a piece of paper. These days, more or less digital. Now, if you're 18 to say 61, okay, not quite a senior, a year off from it, then the voucher will have a string attached to it called funding. That funding comes from a money pot. Okay, and then so that's 18 to 61, non-senior, could mean that you could get a housing choice voucher, mainstream voucher. It could mean a Section 811 voucher. So what are these Section 811, Section 504, and all that? That is subsection federal code. What is federal code? It's federal regulation, okay? Just like when you read regulation for tax code, you have subsections with numbers. Well, when federal code, when you deal with housing, they also have something very close to that. That's why you often have ever wondered. Good example is for you to get on your keyboard in your home, okay? and put in section, and then just work on your keyboard. Put in section and the word 1. And so what Google will do is start rolling you through all the different types of section numbers. Okay? And then you can learn about all the types of vouchers. So it's not different types of vouchers as I'm suggesting. Again, it's a operating voucher, and it is funded from a particular subsection. Okay. Now that we're clear about that, contingent on age, disability, being a veteran, whether or not you're white, you're black, you're brown, you're yellow, whatever you want to be. Other variations could be with or without children, seniors and seniors with a disability, non-seniors, seniors that are assisted, those that suffer from domestic violence, those that are, again, a veteran, those that may be suffering from HIV or AIDS. There is so many different types of strings. And when I refer to strings, I mean funding. And those fundings get attached to the voucher, and then the voucher will change to whatever it may be. It means it's funded by something differently, okay? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of context. I don't expect you to learn it all tonight, okay? But this is why I make all these videos. All right, I'm going to stop. I see a few more comments rolling through, and I'm trying to aggressively answer those so we don't get lost in the mix. Sheila Neal, hello. Is there any way to find out any openings for Miami, Florida in the future? So let's talk about, since we're talking about secrets, okay? Y'all know how I feel about that. I went on Google to see who was making these secrets books and bullshit, because that's what it is. Everybody that has made something about a video or written something on it is pre-inclusion of me. In other words, they plagiarized the hell out of me. I've been out here doing this longer than all of them, and so you can assure you that a lot of what I see on Google and all, these people recently made these videos and other issues, and they have no idea what the secret is. So let's get straight to the point. So one of the ways that you can be very, very clever, and I had a client that actually took my advice, and I've recommended this on a few occasions in my videos. You're out here, maybe you got a voucher, maybe you don't. Maybe you're looking after subsidy. One of the most clever ways you could ever do this is start really early before you know you're going to move or you're about to get a voucher. You call city planning and development. What does that do? That puts you about 10 light years ahead of everybody. So there are two fundamental options here. And let me show you. Number one, you go to where everybody else goes to, just like a rodeo clown that's been programmed. They give you a list that everybody's got. Look, that list that everybody's got, you don't have a chance in hell, period. Okay, just forget about it. You can go try. Clearly, you can try, but you're waiting for an ambulance to pull out of there. Okay, if there's 90 people in there, they tell you, hey, you're number 4 in the list. Well, they're not telling you. They're telling you the truth, but they're not telling the whole truth. The whole truth would be, yeah, you're number 4 in the list, and you'll be 4 in that list for 10 years because we're waiting for somebody to expire in the building. In other words, you need to turn your air on your car, keep your engine running for about 5 years, and stake out the driveway while you wait for somebody in that subsidized property to literally die on the way to check the mail, okay? So let's just be brutally honest. City planning and development, what they can do is you can get a list of subsidized properties that are either currently being built right now or about to be completed. What does that do? It ensures that you are the first person. Let me tell you something about landlords. I deal with over 200 of them. Landlords keep this stuff real hush. Why? Because they don't want you guys over there jumping the fences to be the first person to apply that brand new pretty building that they haven't marketed. But one way to cleverly get around that and be the number one person by weeks to get into a brand new property is city planning and development and ask them, what are the LITCH properties, LITCH properties, or subsidy properties or low-income properties that are in development or almost finished. You can rest assured you'll arrive at a building that is not going to have a fucking sign outside saying, hey, by the way, we're looking for vouchers in a month. No. What you can do is you keep an eye on that. And I can assure you, clients that have taken that advice were the first person to apply by light years, including in timing and also being able to get through it. You'd be wise to play that game in every county surrounding that county. And then it multiplies your options. So I had a client took that advice. She was by weeks the only person they had as an applicant. And they respectfully took her because she was clever enough to take my advice and just do what I was suggesting. Okay? So there's a secret for you. All right, you guys are really hammering away with the questions, so I can already see that we may not have time to tell you all the secrets, but we'll try. Rosalind Mitchell. Hello, how are you doing today, Jay? Great to see you back. Rosalind Mitchell chiming in from Flint, Michigan water lawsuit. Now, you know they got that good water, that good Nestle water out there. If you like a shot of lead in your water, the folks out in Flint, Michigan had it pretty tough. So I do feel for you, Miss Rosalind. And again, guys, I'm just responding to people that are commenting in the comment bar here. Lady T, hi Jay, I applied for Section 8 and seniors in 2017. I was told there was no app for me. I showed the current manager my 2017 app. She said I had to start over. Is there anything I can do? If you have any evidence that you did apply and that you have a record of that, you guys are, not you, I'm not going to suggest that it be you, but you guys are doing a terrible job of actually having the burden of proof. You guys are getting purged from waiting lists after a year. You're not answering your phones and emails. Look, guys, you have got to have a matter record for everything. Everything. You get on the Google and you start doing your little application and whatever by yourself, then you better have Bob stand behind you with a video camera recording it, okay? Because that's in a way that we can appeal that at the federal level, that there could have been some misconduct or whatever it may be, you know? But nobody's going to take it on anybody's good word, especially with Section 8, because there's a high number, a high propensity for people with mental illness, that all kinds of strange things happen, and they're willing to lie and do other things. I'm not suggesting everybody's mentally ill or has those problems, but you see why proof is really a good thing to have. Okay, Lori Aldridge, hi Jay, thank you for helping us all. You are very much appreciated. I thank you for thanking me, and thank you for being the first person to thank me in this video. I always appreciate that immensely. You know, a lot of time goes in all these videos. I know we're pushing now, 600 videos soon. So, okay. Rosalind Mitchell, Dallas Housing Authority is working on my ported one bedroom. I'm on Social Security voucher for Flint, Michigan, and actually Lansing, Michigan capital. Awesome. Naomi Israel says, if your name is pulled and you have submitted your paperwork, how long does it take for them to do an interview? That's a curious question, and it used to be very consistent. However, pandemic and other issues, lack of staffing, and of course, housing authorities have a higher turnover rate than even a cheeseburger shop, because most people that work at the housing authority, besides them already being a miserable person, they find their job quite miserable, and a lot of them don't make it very long. And I think another part of it is they deal with a lot of difficult people. And I can say that from experience of doing what I do, that around 30% of the people that I deal with, there's a small fraction of people that make my job a living hell, despite them paying me to do it. You know, there's all kinds of neurotic behavior, bad things. You know, I deal with it all the time. And so I can see why housing authority employees get wore out. The fact that I've remained in the market for almost 21 years is only a testament probably to my own mental illness of wanting to deal with people that have paranoia, schizophrenia, and other issues that greatly impede their ability to perform and act normally and follow the things that I'm asking of them. However, I have a lot of high functioning people on spectrum and so on that do famously with this stuff, you know, when we do consulting work with them. So it's hard. You can't peg it on one person or one culture. It's always an issue. All right, Christopher Hammond, can you move into a unit before housing inspects? No, that's an absolute no. Do not do that, okay? Because a lot of things can happen. If you move into something without the agreement or have a contract with the housing authority, they do not have to honor anything you're doing. And that's a terrible idea. All right, so I'm going to roll back around. We were talking again about some secrets. I think we talked about city planning and development as a direct course of action for you guys to take when you want to be the first one in line at a new property or something in development. So I want to talk a little bit about what I do and some of the things that I don't often talk about. So consultants are just consultants, right? Well, there's differences between the types of consultants you can deal with and their ability to do things at a small level and at probably a very experienced level. So, you know, when clients contact me, one of the first aspects I do is determine preferences. You guys hear the word preference, you think, okay, well, that just means he's talking about a local preference. Does a person live locally? And maybe the housing authority would give them a boost up the list. Then a lot of people take the other presumption, oh, well, I'm a senior. That gives me a boost. Yes, it does. Then you have other people. I'm a senior and I'm disabled. Well, so is 99% of all the other people that applied. But yes, it gives you a boost. But unfortunately, that only puts you in a much bigger pool of almost everybody that already has those problems. Then we go into being veterans, domestic violence victims, and there's a wide range of preferences. So those have the power to not only erase years of wait, they have the ability to be able to port you different places very quickly, depending on the housing authority. So let's get into what would actually be a secret about this. We all are familiar with preferences. I've been teaching that for a while. Let's talk about how it would play out if you actually had something to value in relation to that. So with the preference part, one of the things that I have found professionally over the years is expanding your search to include a wider region of areas and looking at your numbers. Okay, so calculating data. If you're in, let's say, the city of Houston, and you know you're surrounded by 7 counties, I think a lot of you know what I'm going to say. You would want to address each one of those housing authorities, but that's not a secret. So let's get to the part that would actually spell out what a actual decent secret would be. That's that you need to have a fine understanding of the number of vouchers that they have in hand, which they don't publish. Second to that, you'd want to know the specific reasons why they're issuing. In other words, a housing authority may receive funds. The funds come down from HUD, federal administered or federal funds, rolls down to the state, rolls down to the housing authority. Once it reaches the housing authority level, they may say, you know what, January, this month, we're going to give out vouchers, but we're not going to tell that big mob outside why we're going to issue these vouchers. What they secretly do a lot of times, it's not so much a secret, I guess. They may receive a segment of money. Let's say they receive $1 million for those that are homeless. Then that month, everybody's applying fairly as under federal rules that everybody applies. But the reality, the housing authority knows specifically why they're issuing them that month, and nobody except those that are homeless will receive that voucher. If you have that understanding, then you know how many vouchers are going to be out there and who they're issuing them for. In other words, if the party required a tuxedo rather than you being in your jogging pants and a t-shirt, you would want to make sure that your case matches the course of what they're looking for as far as issuing a voucher. And you would also want to know if there was a great enough number of vouchers in that county. That brings into a second part of a secret, and that would be that, well, how do you get that information? Well, in principle, they'll usually deny your request. But thankfully, we do have open public requests at state level and the federal level. In other words, sending a signed or certified letter requesting from not the people that work in the housing authority, but their attorney, legal counsel, in-house counsel, and demanding under open public requests and its laws, okay, that are applicable to that state and county, that you are absolutely entitled to that information, just like a news reporter is. And then that would give you a very surreal edge. Then you take all those mixtures of secrets and commonly known things that I just spoke about, and you multiply that by all the counties that you're considering, and maybe possibly across 2 different states if need be, if the market's real tough. In addition to that, guys, it's only one system. If we scroll back, if we roll this video back 28 minutes to 40 minutes, however long I've been talking, I'm only talked you through, in principle, what would be vouchers, housing choice voucher, mainstream, and so on, Section 202, Section 811. But we haven't even really talked about subsidies, a whole separate market that is not inclusionary of what? Vouchers. This means that the funding is tied to the building, and more specifically, when you're granted the application of a subsidy, you go in, the landlord there gives an application, you're old, you've got a fixed income, and they grant you an apartment. The funding you receive from the government is attached to the doorknob. When you move in, you receive the discount. When you leave there, you leave the discount at the door, and the next person moves in and receives that subsidy. There's no portability with subsidized housing, which is also called low-income housing, which is also called affordable housing, which is also called tenant-based housing. It's called anything but project-based housing and anything but a voucher. Okay? So let's talk about another secret. So what if that's your only option? You can't get a voucher, and you can only get that tenant-based housing and all the other names they call. Well, here's a little known secret. You can actually convert your tenant-based housing, your low-income housing, and request that the housing authority convert it over to a housing choice voucher. Is it a lot of bullshit? Absolutely. But you didn't know you could do that, could you? So that would be a secret. So sometimes if you want to actually skip through the system and be clever, the concept is this, as I brought up earlier about consultants. There's lots of people who love to clock in and they think they're a consultant. They just want to do a job. They don't actually care, and they certainly don't know anything. Look, there's many times I got on the phone with the housing authority. By the time I started talking about Title 24 federal code and other things, including subsections of their own policy, procedures, and code on that fucking phone line went dead. In other words, the employee that worked there simply couldn't even compete with my conversation, and the only answer at that point, without shaming themselves, was simply to shut the fuck up and then hang up. Okay? I compete at that level. I compete way past the people working there. Now, I can understand if I'm sitting there and we're on the phone with director of services or somebody that actually has had an obligation to understand and do these things, but I don't really find many housing authority employees that can compete at my level whatsoever. And anything that comes out of their mouth, interestingly enough, just like anything else, the truth has come out of a lot of housing authority employees' mouths over the years I've spoke to them. But when you multiply that by hundreds of counties across 50 states, it means I've been told every lie 100 times. Look, people at housing authorities can't even invent a new way to sit there and lie to me. They can't invent a new way to lie about what they know either, because everything that they've tried to produce across 50 states and hundreds of housing authorities, I've seen it all. I've got a counter to everything they can say. So in other words, all I do is shut you down and shame you. Okay, but that's not my goal. It's to shame housing authorities or their employees. It's just that I think there's a proof of work, proof of concept, being able to absolutely master what you do and get it done for your clients. Okay, that's the game that I compete at. Let's talk about something that's also a secret that shouldn't be. When you hear the words lottery, does that not imply you go down and you got a voucher, or you go down to get a subsidy property, you can apply to be there, and they tell you, hey, we got a lottery. Okay, so here's a secret you didn't know. There's two things. Number one, I'm going to tell you something very basic about lotteries. Lotteries do not work in the same manner that you have been raised to believe, or the concept you have of lottery tickets. So let's talk about some examples of lotteries and how it doesn't ever favor you, okay? A lottery is not technically one linear lottery where people simply all sign up and are fairly pulled for a number. A lottery is actually a lot of little lotteries inside of a big one. So now that we've got three little subsections of the single lottery, those that have the highest number of preferences, that are old and disabled and so on, they get grouped into that section that remains floating at the top. Those people that I got a shitty job at McDonald's, okay, they're about 19 and they feel entitled to a voucher, they go into a nice big group that floats near the bottom. Okay, now for this example, I'm only going to use two groups. So here's that lottery again. So you're all applying, but you're all actually being put into big, large chunks, one of which rolls at the bottom, one rolls at the top. Now, why don't they want you to give you your lottery number and tell you how you climb the ladder up and you're going to get your little apartment, right? No, you're not. You know why? Because the people down here that have a low number of preferences, you know what happens with that? Every time an old lady walks in with cancer, she's 99, she gets packed into here, that pushes this list farther down. That's why they don't give out lottery numbers anymore, because that you get all excited. Oh, I was number 84. I'm 34. I work at Taco Bell, and they told me I'm going to get a voucher. What they don't want to tell you is now you're not number 63. Now that all these new seniors entered in this bubble is now increased, pushing all the rest of them down in that other section. You're now number 1,982, and they're not going to give you that number. And that's exactly why. So there's your secret. Lotteries do not work the way you think they do. I don't give a damn what they write on the front of that. People that have high preferences that are considered at more imminent risk than others are going to always be in the bigger bubble at the top. And the fatter that bubble gets, the lower bubble, the farther that fucker goes down. And if you're in the lower bubble and you really have no excuse whatsoever to get it other than you just got a terrible job, not only you're in the bottom bubble, but you're at the bottom of that bubble. And you're going to continue just to keep sinking straight to hell. Okay? Shake the devil's hand. By the way, guys, my lack of professionalism in the way that I use words is not a lack of professionalism. Look, if I don't, I have to spice these videos up. Otherwise, I'd bore myself to death. Because let's be honest, nobody likes to sit here and watch a middle-aged white dude bump his gums for an hour, okay? So I like to spice it up and just keep it a little bit real. Most of you know that about me. I don't want to sit on here and preach, all right? So now we covered that. But another thing I want to tell you is, the concept of lotteries, does that not imply a game? If I go and take grandma down to bingo and we're going to go play the lottery, does that not really imply a game? So here is the fundamental question you should ask yourself. If you're going to play the game, shouldn't you play it better than the people that designed it? Now, I think that all of us have arrived at a certain part of life where we're old enough to understand the difference between reality and bullshit. Like when you watch YouTube videos, it only takes you a few minutes to discover and really determine whether somebody's full of shit or not. Again, if you're going to play the game, you better find somebody like me that understands how to play the game and play it well. If you don't, then you're going to end up in that little lottery straight to hell, okay? If you think I'm joking about that, I can tell you right now, at about 3 cases a day, every day of the year, at around 1,000 cases a year plus 200 landlords, I can tell you it's very much real. So, as a matter of practicality, you don't need to lie or deceive anybody. You only simply need to understand what their policies, procedures are, and why they're granting vouchers and multiplying those efforts. Now, is that everything? No. I mean, if my car broke and I said, you know what, I'm going to help you rig the test and win. It doesn't work that way. Because if I gave you the mechanic's manual, does that mean you could fix cars? No. I've given you all this information to use. If it does come in useful, I think that's great. But does it mean that you're going to be able to walk away from this video and produce my job? No, because you lack you would lack the experience, and you would also lack the ability of doing trial and error. In my early career, there was lots of failures. Okay, lots of failures. There were a lot of guinea pigs too. But that's what it took getting through that in order to be exceptional at what I do, was learning where the failures were, how to probe the system, how to find its weaknesses legally, and walk my clients straight through the loophole. If we're going to go in there, hold hands and pray to Jesus and play it square, we're going to play a rigged game. Keep in mind, a rigged game that's unfair, biased, discriminatory. I don't want to give you a voucher. If you're going to go in there with the attitude that you're going to be a good Christian woman and get you a voucher, you're out your mind. Okay? You're going to play this game, and it is, in my mind, in some practicalities. And again, I don't want anybody to be offended by the word Jesus in religion. There's a place and time for everything. But understand that in this system, it's not favorable to that, okay? You have got to do what you need to do. I'm getting tired of seeing people in their 80s and 90s sleeping in their car, rescuing people from homeless shelters. I'm watching kids on breathing machines and wheelchairs, and they're rolling that wheelchair in a fucking forest because the housing authority doesn't give a shit. If you don't believe me, give those fuckers a call and see if you matter to them. Just like when I talk with you guys as a consultant, one of the first things you learn about me is I don't sugarcoat shit, period. You want sugarcoated shit, there's lots of people that sell snake oil on YouTube. That's what they do. Today, they're an expert at fidget spinners. Next week, they're going to be an expert at cupcakes. And then today, they're going to make a fucking video about tips and tricks in 3 minutes. Now, they just got their GED out the bubblegum video and ruined somebody's life with some bullshit advice. That's a lot of what YouTube is. These aren't even real consultants on here. I've not identified one real one out there outside of myself. All right, now that I'm going on that rant, because I can understand if you wanted to go and mess with somebody's electric bill or whatever, but when you start messing with somebody's housing and their ability to get it, because you want to make a few nickels, a few copper fucking pennies, so you can go out and get your hair curled and make some bullshit video, then don't do it. Go find something else. Pick up gardening. Taco Bell's always hard. All right, I got that out of me, so we're going to move on here. I'm feeling a little bitter right now. All right, lots of comments, so I'm going to get to them. Michelle Hyde's wondering why rent increased so much last year, so you expect HA to raise market rent to reflect the current market. Well, what I expect this year in terms of the entire housing market, I think one thing that we have to explore is this. We have a bunch of low-income landlords. Well, not low-income landlords. We have landlords with low-income properties. In other words, the buildings are old, and they're giving out cheap rent. Well, what happens when you create a pandemic and then you set the housing market on fire with incentives? That's what we did, right? Now that landlord that had low rents in an old building, now his little old building was worth $300,000 pre-pandemic. Now, because of the housing bubble, more or less, that's my opinion. Now that little old building, that little old landlord, their building's worth $3 million. Now it's time to evict everybody any way they can get it done and sell the building. They waited for this one magical windfall all their life. That's the pandemic to hit, raise property prices. So now a bunch of housing's exiting the market. The landlords that are left, they're raising rents at such a rapid pace that nobody can even keep up with it. They're even trying to address this at the legislative level because housing vouchers and housing authorities can't even keep up with the amount of money that would be required to even pay to have a voucher valuable enough to be able to rent. So that's what's going on. And that's why I think we saw the biggest push in some states up to 42% increase in rent. And we will continue to see this climb by about 16% in 2022. Now, I am not a real estate expert, okay? But I want to suggest to you that we will still see incremental raises in rent all the way through this year, based on what I know after 20 years, okay? All right. I see a lot of y'all laughing, clapping, and praying for me. So in the live chat, so I do understand. I get a little rambunctious in my videos, but I spend so much time doing this, it's ridiculous. All right, so LaRob and Alexander, hello. How are you doing today, Michelle Hyatt? Okay, already answered that one. LaRob and Alexander again. I was awarded emergency housing Section 8, no income, but I have a place to rent. Can I rent without an income? The only place you're going to rent without an income is going to be CES, Coordinated Entry, better known as Housing First. And that's a system where you have to take an estimate and so on. No income, no voucher. Okay, guys, that's housing authority ain't gonna want to hear that because you have a rent responsibility. And if you ain't got a nickel, you're not gonna keep that voucher very long. So you have to go through CES system, which means Coordinated Entry System. Mary Semple, thank you for being you. God, if I was any other type of person, could y'all imagine me if I was actually an alcoholic and sitting here with a glass of bourbon plus attitude? YouTube would have put me out the door. So, all right, you know what, guys? I'm going to show y'all something now. Mother's Day is coming up. As y'all know, I do inject my personal life in my videos. I'd like to get some opinions here, folks. So I went and got Mom this, and hopefully y'all can see it. What do y'all think? This is an orchid. I got to tell you, the video is making that flower look a lot better than it actually really is. I'm impressed by the way it looks in the video. So what do y'all think? It's good? Is Mom going to throw a whiskey bottle at me, or is she going to say, hey, I love you? So we'll keep the orchid in here for now. All right. So that's, by the way, for those of you that have Spanish, Hispanic, or even from Spain, any form of Spanish in you, Cinco de Mayo is coming up, and I live in Texas, so just let you guys know if you forgot about that. It's around the corner here. Great time to drink a beer and listen to some good music for those that might be Hispanic, Latin, or so on. Okay. All right. Looks like I got a vote of confidence on the flower, so that's a good thing. That damn thing was kind of expensive, so tell Mom she's going to have to water it well. If I missed your question, please ask again because it's hard to keep up with it sometimes. Original elements, yes, sir. LaRobin Alexander Roslin, he answered your question. Yep, no, didn't. Original elements, laughing at me. Brian Guerreros, is there a way to get a voucher quick for a friend of mine that will be homeless for 2 months? Well, I wouldn't say that it's quick. I'd say that in principle, you'd probably spend around 30 days, maybe a little bit longer getting it. That's the fastest you'll ever get them. And you may have to make several attempts at that in order to get it, okay? It's CES system, which is coordinated entry. Original Elements goes on to say, I touched base earlier want to fact check you. That's probably ill-advised trying to fact check me because I tend to get very bitter. And usually when people fact check me, they end up being wrong to a terrible degree. But I'll read the rest and see what it is. Can you evict someone on disability in home care? I served since 2012, 2018, and they let me. Well, eviction policies and procedure. Okay, so let's talk about evictions. Besides federal laws that protect people, including those that are over 62, and in addition to that, them having disabilities, in addition to that, you have state law, county law, and different ordinances. It would just depend, and those things do change everywhere in the nation. So, if you have the rights, if there's the right situations in place, then potentially nobody's immune from eviction. Okay, not unless there's a presidential decree, and even then. There's no simple immunity. So my advice with evictions are consult with an attorney. I can certainly talk to y'all about it, but I'm not going to give advice in that respect. Okay. The Robin Alexander says, nice. It's beautiful. I think y'all referring to the flower. She'll love it. Michelle Hyatt, very nice. I'm going to take a sip of my energy drink real quick. Oh, goodness. Haley Orbison said, "Is this only Texas or all states?" And okay, let's just be clear about the range of what I do. So, vouchers and HUD are a federal program. I do not practice housing in one zip code. Okay, I address all 5,500 plus counties, all 50 states plus the contentious ones, Alaska and Hawaii. Okay, I am not a consultant just in my neighborhood or in the city of Houston. So I don't mean to be rude. Federal programs means every state. And I think in the beginning of the video, I think I spoke about addressing nearly a third of all housing authorities in America at one point or another. So yes, I do. This is not exclusively for Texas. It just means that my office is there. Look, when you buy a vacuum cleaner from Hoover, do you think the plant's in your neighborhood? Do you think they make the vacuum cleaners up the street at the gas station? Look, we all work around unless it's something local. Now, if it's honey from specific bees in my backyard, then I would say, hey, I'm selling local honey. I had to go there. I'm sorry. Don't take it too personal. Robin Alexander's a busy bee today. She's asked yet another question. Can I move without any income for a month? You're going to run into all kinds of problems with no income. So you're going to move without income. You're going to live somewhere with no power. You might want to get some income in place because I think you're fixing to have a really rough time. You probably could, but you're going to have to rely on a number of different wraparound services, including utilities and other people paying your bills. And I don't see the housing authority viewing that as a very good option. Okay, especially if you're dealing with vouchers. Original Eldon says, "Thank you kindly." Moving. Well, what is that name? We'll just call you MC. Hi, can I ask what you do if you discover that you are heating the common area in an apartment? So your utilities are connected to the common areas. Well, that should be a file. That should be a filing or a claim with HUD for a bad landlord. And also, you should be contacting your city inspector to validate that first. Once you've got the validation from the city inspector, then you take that information, you translate it over to HUD by contacting them. Burden of proof is important. Nobody cares about whether you're telling the truth or not. You got to have something on paper from an official saying, hey, this is what's going on. And then when you have the burden of proof, you take it to HUD, and then they'll address that appropriately. Brian Guerrero's, why is it hard to get housing voucher here in Florida? Well, Brian, it's not just hard in Florida. It's the day that they started vouchers back in the 60s, it's been hard. It has never been easy. Florida is because let me ask you a question. We look at 49 states, right? Which state would you call the retirement state? Where do people go to die? Florida, right? The same thing you guys see playing out in California. Everybody wanted to go to the beach. You know what used to be the old Florida? It was California. People went there to retire. You got little old ladies in trailers out there, okay, on the beach. The problem with Florida is there is not enough tax base. Okay, so it's too many old people. You understand where that's coming from? And there's not enough. Let me give you a good example, just a really good example. The city of Miami, which is 400,000 plus people, the housing authority opened the waiting list for 3 days. Can anybody guess the percentage of people that actually applied to get one of those vouchers? 25% of the city. That's 100,000 people all after. Now, how did that happen? I've been this long enough to know that no city in America has a quarter of the population apply. How did we get such freakish numbers? It's simple. There's too many low-income individuals, or fixed, I shouldn't say low-income, fixed-income individuals that are no longer a tax base. Now, that can be part of the reasons that, again, I'm not a professor in that area, and I don't have my PhD in property and taxes and so on, but I would suggest to you that there is an effect there. And the nightmare of housing you see playing out in California, don't think for a minute that because you got Democrats in California, that's the reason it's bad there. Or you got Republicans out there in Florida. It has nothing to do with your political agendas, folks. What you see playing out in California, you're going to see play out in Florida pretty soon. Okay? There's just simply too much going on. The state is too big. There's too many people there. And so, yeah, exactly. Gently Moving says Florida straight to hell. Well, I suppose. We could use some of that blue water down here in Texas because if you've ever been to a Texas beach, we have doo-doo brown water, and I'm not getting in that. The Gulf of Mexico is nasty. You got to ride all the way from the Texas Gulf Coast, keep driving past Louisiana's coast, keep driving past Alabama. When you get right in that little thin part of Florida right there around Panama City, Florida, that's when the water actually turns a nice, pretty color. We got Galveston out here, and I'm not a fool. Look, we got 9 million people in Houston. Where do you think all that toilet water goes? You think they're going to put it in the pond? It goes right down there to Galveston. And you got children out there with a little pole and a string trying to catch a shrimp in the toilet. That's what they're doing. I wouldn't get in that stuff. So even when I go to vacation. So anyways, y'all got me on another tear about the beaches. No offense, but I've lived here most of my life. I'm not getting in. I'm not going to swim in the toilet. Okay. Luca says, I was accepted Section 8 here in Cleveland, Ohio, over a year ago. Last Jan, they sent me a packet. I did the class, I did what they said, and I was approved for another county. What the bleep? Now, there's one reason why that could happen. Sometimes if you're in a state where you have smaller counties, one housing authority could actually have oversight over several counties. In other words, it could be Rosenville Housing Authority, but Rosenville Housing Authority also runs the housing for several counties around it. Okay, that might be a reason why. I don't know without actually knowing more case details about your case. Michelle Hyatt, she says, goes on to say, I waited 8 years on a list to get my voucher. That's way too long. I'm even on disability and waited that long. It takes a long time everywhere. Not necessarily. You know what? We work with clients all the time and get vouchers 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. It's, you wait a long time. There's so many things you guys don't know. A lot of you want to stay in the big city. You want to apply in counties where there's too many people applying for it. You're not looking at other places. Look, you got housing authorities that are sitting in a one-horse town. Those housing authorities got a drawer full of vouchers. So I go get a client a voucher over there, right? Oh, well, I'll be stuck 12 months. No, we can do portability. So we take the voucher where we get it and then port it where you want it to go. Now, sometimes you do, under policy, have to stay 12 months. But if it means cutting an 8-year waiting list, so as much as I appreciate that information that you're giving me about that, Michelle Hyde, I would tell you this: a small fraction of what you think you know about this stuff. So, but yeah, you did wait a long time, and I'm sorry that happened, but there was lots of ways that was avoidable had you hadn't known me earlier. Robin and Alexander goes on to say, I just wanted to lose my voucher for not having the income right now. Brian Guerrero's, I had an application to EHP from Orlando Housing Authority, but I already have a voucher. But you better decline one of them. You start collecting vouchers, my friend. What you're going to end up with is a federal agent at your door, and they're going to want to have a fine understanding. Now, guys, let me talk to you real quick about something you might find curious. Has anybody here heard of Section 9? We all know what Section 8 is. Even more of you know what Section 811 is. Does anybody here know what Section 9 is? Section 9 is when the federal government meets you in a court, then they provide you with some jewelry. They're beautiful bracelets, and then they give you transportation to your new community living. Okay, the new community living, they have solid steel doors. Okay, and they give you a Section 9 voucher when you get there. Okay, you get 3 slippers, 3 hots, a cot, and then they lock your ass in a box. It's called federal prison. Okay, so Section 8 is for people that are free. Section 9 is when the federal government pays your rent to be in a prison cell. If you guys keep playing around and getting multiple vouchers, then you will be issued Section 9 from a judge. Now, does that technically exist? No. It's, of course, a little private joke I have with some clients that are asking me shady questions, but I always tell them you don't want Section 9. You want Section 8. Luca Brazier says, "Is there any chance I can have that? Any other?" Well, yeah, absolutely. You can transfer. And let me tell you something, guys. Getting a voucher. So, say that you did get a voucher to One Horse Town, and despite all your efforts, they say, "Oh, you got to do 12 months." Well, did you know there's a reason why they write federal code, federal regulation, policies, and procedures? There are certain things that could potentially play out of that property that could compel them, force the housing authority to move you. In other words, give you portability. Now, how would you know that? Well, people like me, we figure out, let me put it this way, just like you have an attorney, like Johnny Cochran, okay? You go and get a client off. Why was Johnny Cochran so good? Because he's a lot, I think a lot like that man does in some respects. There's a difference between an average consultant and one that's exceptional. The exceptional ones will always know how to bend the law in the right direction. Will also know where all the holes are. So just because you're presented with an ordinary situation don't mean you're stuck in it. There's lots of ways to bend things to your will if you're really, really good at what you do. Now, I'm not going to sit here in this video and tell y'all how to bend policy, how to seek out weaknesses in housing authorities, how to exploit housing authorities legally, and so on. But take it as no part of the imagination. That's, in principle, a lot of what I do. I don't need anybody to lie. If you understand the policy, you can force these fucking people to do what you want. Okay? Will it be easy? No. Will there be a fight? Absolutely. The law is a law. And if they don't want to change the law, if they don't want to change policy and procedure, they don't want to get up there in Capitol Hill and rewrite the law, then I'm going to continue to send my clients through that gaping asshole. Okay? That's how it works. Or you can deal with a consultant that don't know shit. They'll sit there with an ink pen, take your name, your number, your social security number down, and they'll help you apply, and then it'll just go nowhere. There's lots of idiots out here that want to play consultant that don't know jack. You know, look at the people working at housing authorities. Let me tell you another secret, guys. Where do you think they underwrite most policy and procedures for housing authorities? Take a wild guess. You get on that Google today after this video, you type in the words NAND, N-A-N, and McKay. That place, that organization underwrites most of the policies and procedures for every housing authority in America, okay? It is not the government. It's them. So, for about $97 on that website, you can go out and get you a HUD special certificate fresh out the bubblegum machine, okay? So, there's the people that work there with the bubblegum license. Now, you compare me to them. They don't even come close to me, okay? Put it that way. So I called that. Also, they got all kinds of certificates you can buy on there. You can spend about $28,000. I could specialize in it. I would murder any test they have. Absolutely to the slaughterhouse. Challenge them. Put me on speakerphone. Pull the full executive group of your housing authority. I will absolutely shred y'all on the phone. Okay? And I have been called before, so I'm not stupid. I've been called by housing authority. They put me on speakerphone, and I'm very sure. So I never worried about that. All right. Anyways, I'm tooting my own horn. Let's roll on, and then I'm going to close out the video. Beautiful Brown Bailey. Hello. How are you? And Beautiful Brown Bailey says, right. No Section 9 wanted here. Yep. I don't want to give nobody Section 9 on project-based housing. Okay. Brian Guerrero's last question. Can my friend apply for Section 8 in Florida County and port into Orlando? Well, if those things do play out as anticipated, then yes. Veronica Haley in Pennsylvania, they have a stipulation in order to port. Well, they always do, but understand that that's one thing y'all have a lot of you guys struggle with, and I'm not speaking specific to you. I just want to get into an example. It's like going to a court and you're talking with a judge, and the judge says, when you put your hand on that Bible, it says you're supposed to give the truth, but the whole truth. A lot of you guys are talking to the housing authority as they are the authority on everything. They are not. Okay? The housing authority doesn't make policy. They only follow it. So when they tell you something, they always tell you the truth, but never the whole truth. That portability issue there, they don't tell you, oh, by the way, we have a policy about that 12 months, but they never stop to go, and here's all the different ways you could exploit that. That's my job. So now that we have an understanding, when you guys have an understanding about one thing, I'm always going to have 11 different ways to go and fucking jump right past it. Okay? For every problem you have, I've got all kinds of solutions. It doesn't mean they always work. It doesn't always mean that it's going to work. But if you're worth your weight in salt doing in this line of work, then you should be able to come up with a lot of different remedies that are constructively within the reasons of federal law. Okay, put my glasses back on so I can see myself. Original elements. My husband worked for a company that got liquidated to a new company. They don't even pay, and they didn't even service an eviction and turn off the lights. Survive. It's unbelievable. Yeah, it is. Gia Williams, smiling faces and laughing for Section 9. Yep. Anytime you guys want the fastest voucher in America, all you need to do is pull out a squirt gun, walk into a bank, tell them that you need all their cash. You'll arrive in jail within hours, and then after that, about 30 days later, the judge will give you a Section 9 voucher. They will give you 2 bracelets for free, wrap them around your arms for you. So free jewelry. They will take you on the big limo with other people that are participants in the Section 9 program. They will haul your ass down to the big house, and then they will issue you some flip-flops, a rubber mat, and free rent. You'll get a Section 9 prison cell. Again, guys, if you want the fastest voucher in America, here is the big secret. You can get it at the federal prison. There is no electric bill, no water bill, no food bill, nothing. You even get a little bit of free cable there. You need to be a good fighter if you want to change the channel, okay? If you're not a good fighter, then, well, you're going to be watching probably as the world turns all day. Who knows? All right, guys, I've had fun talking with y'all. I hope you join me again. I usually do these videos on Sunday and right along, and you'll get a mixture of spicy, interesting, professional, and then a lack of professional. Take it for what it is. One thing is always conscientiously on my mind when I talk to people, and that is to ensure that you don't get sugar-coated advice. You need to be an adult, be able to handle some profanities. I use plenty of that. I believe that profanities do express the truest intent. People, and it may not sound very churchy, but that's all right. We're all grown, but I think that it expresses the gravity of the situation, the difficulties that you all face. So that being said, I'm going to pet my cats. I'm going to order Mom's Mother's Day tulip. I think she's going to be super excited about that. And I think our next video, we're going to try on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And you'd be wise for watching my channel. You don't survive on YouTube for a decade because you're an idiot, okay? You don't get to work with close to 1,000 people a year. You certainly don't work with 200 landlords if I counted every landlord in the properties I worked with, the total value of all that stuff, it'd be in the hundreds of millions, okay? These big developers wouldn't trust me for a nickel to run and to evaluate their clients, put people in it, if they thought I was running a game, okay? So anyways, I'm going to leave you with some information. If you actually want a consultant to help you out, you're tired of losing sleep, worrying about things, give me a call, and we'll see what happens, Nothing's certain in this world but death and taxes. I certainly give you a better shot at something than you ever would yourself. So, all right, guys, here is my website. Here is my booking software. Do your due diligence. We are registered with the Secretary of State of Texas at EIN, DBA, and we can be verified. There are no liens, holds, judgments, or other investigations by the DOJ or the FBI and we've got a 20-year career with not a single absolute problem. So I know my advice is definitely worth something in respect to that. And anyways, Joe, enjoy your day. Goodbye.